Alrighty everyone, how's it going? My name is Renegade Operative, and I would like to make a follow-up video to my previous 2-day-old, 48-hour-old video. And it was a gaming discussion, gaming debate on stop with the revisionist history when it comes to remakes and remasters, noting that there is an inconsistency on people holding companies accountable for their actions. Now, I am a big fan of Last of Us Part 2. I still relatively love this series, and I know there is division amongst this game to the point where I've seen people become tribalist animals over this title, and it's quite fascinating to say the least. The funniest thing is that there is revisionist history. There will be people that will make up and say something in the present as if it happened prior when that never happened, and it was like an unwritten rule in the back of their mind to create a fake narrative, a false narrative, to downplay and belittle the game to the point where they will say a remaster being done in less than 3 years or during that time span is a critical offense, and that gaming is creatively tapped and destroyed and modern gaming is done for. Now, you see something that is a gross generalization like that, and honestly, I cannot agree with it. I do not like revisionist history at all. I'll give you some examples of what this means. So in the past, we've seen people say completely dumb things that makes no sense. In order to shit on Battlefield 2042, I seen people say that Battlefield 4 had a successful launch with the servers and they had no issues. But when I played Battlefield 4 in the past, and I tried to launch the game when I first bought it day one, I ran into an error. I ran into a problem where I couldn't log into the servers. Now, why is that? Maybe it's because that EA and DICE really didn't have it all together. And I like Battlefield 4, but the servers working day one, that's a no. Castlevania Season 1 is trash. I've seen this said between communities to basically put down Adi Shankar, and I don't remember a mass majority of people saying that Castlevania Season 1 was bad. I remember the opposite of people saying this is awesome and where can I get more episodes, and Season 2 should be longer, which is why the episode count went up for Season 2. Season 1 was 4 episodes and Season 2 was 8 episodes. Most people were clamoring for Castlevania Season 1, and to some extent too, even though I talked about this in reviews, it had a couple of problems, but overall I enjoyed it. Then there's people that were playing the Bird Box game, The Blind Man, saying that there was never any bugs within the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, which is honestly a victim of hype culture, which is a victim of the Edge Runners anime coming out and folks sort of being oblivious to it despite waiting for updates, waiting for Cyberpunk 2.0, where they fixed a good majority of the issues for the game. We cannot pretend they are not there because a YouTube search, Cyberpunk 2077 bugs, will lead to people T-posing on ladders, people having their cars get blown up, fall to the ground, and a bunch of other buggy, chaotic chaos where there are like legit rules that they had in the past saying that developers, not developers, but reviewers could not review the game and mention any of the bugs. There was an embargo on that because I think they knew it was a fucky wucky. It would put a black stain on their eye. So they said, hey, you can't talk about game bugs. I'm sorry. And that was legitimate. That was something that was encroached on and in place back then on people. So I'm just like, where are people getting all this logic? You know, people saying the Web of Shadows, it was better than Spider-Man PS4 back then. When Spider-Man PS4 came out, I just don't remember much chatter about that. I remember people clamoring about the story and about the characters and saying that Aunt May dying ending and that being so paramount to Spider-Man was being talked about. Most Spider-Man fans was playing Spider-Man 1 back in the day, and you know, the 2000 18 version, and they were not bringing up all these other comparisons during launch. It was mostly just them playing the game, and maybe Spider-Man 2 was the apex, so that was the real comparisons. I don't remember Web of Shadows being touted as better back then. And the last one was folks saying that Black Panther was the first black superhero in cinema during the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when that's false, because Blade came before Black Panther. You will see a bunch of this fake outrage or a bunch of false narratives go around because people make them up to make themselves feel better, when the real ones know this never happened in the past, or this is new information being touted amongst the community. I made this video because I just am not a fan of revisionist history, and I don't like when something that was never said before is just now being brought up out of the clear fucking blue. I mentioned several things in this video, so I'm gonna go into why. Again, I like the Last of Us series. I know part 2 is divisive. There are people who will like it, like me. There's people who hate it, and then there's people that are just utterly toxic about it, no matter which way you slice it. I mean, some of the threats that I mentioned in the last video was just completely unwarranted to some of these actors involved in the project. I just think that was completely asinine, just as I think it was asinine when folks were making death threats to other people when Hogwarts Legacy came out, and that was a big problem. The main thing that was said is that remasters cannot come out in less than 3 years for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and there's plenty that came out beforehand or having that allotted same amount of time frame. And it's just like, okay, and same thing for remakes. There's been remakes that came out in less time than Part 2, so there's no unwritten rule on when a remake is created. Maybe in your brain it's ideal for it to be done in a certain amount of time, but that's not how the industry has worked with the gaming stratosphere. It's like you have to accept what was happening back in the past. And when I bring up RE1 remake coming out 6 years later, people get mad at that. Why are you mad at the truth? Why? Well, what reason do you have to be angry at the truth? This is just game development 101 being touted right in front of your face. I missed out on some citations. I even mentioned this before with the remaster topic, that we've seen remasters not only mentioned in a video like Tomb Raider Definitive or Sleeping Dogs being done in relatively shorter times or taking like maybe 2-3 years or less. There's also SpiderMan Remastered, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima director's cuts or director's cuts remasters that came out in a relatively short time for updates. I think typically you will see a larger influx of remasters when a console generation ends and another one starts, which is true. If the game is well praised, well liked, has a lot of sales, it makes sense for them to remaster it on the next generation platform so they can have other people buy it and continue on with the service of that game if it's well received, and possibly port it to PC, which is something I didn't mention last time. There's always the ideal for making future PC ports and putting it on PC and gaining more money that way. So there's a larger picture going on when you remaster a game, and you can also introduce it to new audiences, new people. Not only that, but I mean, hardcore fans might like those updates because, like I said before, quality of life makes the game the best version it could be, and I stand by that. I firmly believe that 100%. And then I'm not really debating the specifics on the interest of which remaster a person wants to see come out, because we all have differing subjective opinions there. For every remaster, everyone wants like Bloodborne to be remastered. And it's like, okay, I get it. I understand you've been waiting that long for Bloodborne to be remastered, but I'm not debating that because there is remasters I also want to be remastered. And if I was given the keys to the kingdom, then I would remaster stuff like Infamous, or I would remaster things like Killzone to come to modern platforms, have better graphics, gameplay, new features, multiplayer coming back into Killzone, Resistance, you know, those games coming back. There's many games I want remastered. The issue is the notion that develops this new sentence with, well, a game that's 3 years old shouldn't be remastered, when we know that's not true with SpiderMan Remastered, Death Stranding, DMC Special Edition. I'm counting that too. It came out in a year. And Ghost of Tsushima, Director's Cut. Mostly, you know, the new content is what we're also playing it for, but the updates and the quality of life gameplay is also something that's paramount as well. Then I also said one of the most anticipated games next year is a remaster for Persona 3. That's true. And honestly, if we look at the early PS4 days where it was called the Remaster Station or Indie Station 4, I remember them, and I remember them very vividly. At the height of the early PS4 days, most games that were initially launching on the system was a correlation of newer IPs, sequels, or remasters, mostly like even fucking this generation kind of had a couple of those going on with first party titles. If we go to GameFAQs, we will see people sort of complaining about the Remaster Station 4 and saying this is getting out of hand, there's so many remasters, blah blah blah. Then we go down the list. Right? And someone mentioned how all the new games were prevalent and they were there. Yeah, totally a pain in the ass. If 10% of the games are remasters going forward, what we mostly got this generation was a ton of sequels. Sequels are first and foremost new IPs, indies, then remasters. We actually, I swear to God, this generation had to be less remasters than last generation. I will drop that percent down to like 6. Going from 10% of most of the overall games being remastered last generation would be filed down to 6 in this generation. So you can clearly see that the innovations and what's going on now, there's been more remakes than remasters. like you just cannot refute it. And there are folks in my comment section thinking that they can and they just can't. It's impossible. I'm inevitable. It's like one guy said 4 games didn't launch on current gen systems. That's totally different. He's talking about Tomb Raider, Sleeping Dogs, Dishonored, how they were like last gen and not current gen. And I'm just like, how is that different? It's going from one platform to the next, which is the prime meaning and the prime definition and the prime intention of what remasters are supposed to do. This generation still has remasters, like SpiderMan Remastered and now The Last of Us Remastered. Make your statement again and make it more cohesive. It's like, oh, the reason why games got away with it was because the PS4 wasn't backwards compatible. And I'm just like, bro, what do you mean? PS4 lacking backwards compatibility does not explain why remasters haven't stopped happening or flourishing business-wise, as they have Ghost of Tsushima, SpiderMan PS4, and Death Stranding that face no backlash because you could play those PS4 iterations on your PS5 just like The Last of Us, and they still have upgrade path or they still have director's cuts. It's not to the point where people have said those remasters are killing the industry specifically with those. It is a Last of Us thing. If Gears 5 got remastered, people will say, cool, like me. They're buying it because they're making new updates for that game soon anyway. I like the game that much. I would never dispute free, but I would pay for those as well because they have new modes and features, and I enjoy the game that much. Given in a cheaply upgrade window of $10, it wouldn't be a problem. Don't sleep on the notion of new fans being brought to an old game or people wanting to re-experience an old game that merely plays better than the last gen version. That's why remasters have a market. And it's just all this bogus crap and all this other stuff. Like, I just don't, I think that a lot of selective reasoning, a lot of selective arguments, and a lot of inconsistent energy is going into this whole thing with Last of Us Remastered. I think people have to accept that we've seen remasters come out beyond that 3-year time window, less than and even shorter, with certain games and certain director's cuts when moving from system to system. When that happens, you're bound to see a remaster. I believe that whatever Naughty Dog's new game is going to be is definitely going to be remastered and put on PS6 with even more options or better control schemes or a lot of fixes to performance or fidelity meshed together. It is what it is, and we just have to face facts. We have to deal with it. And I said, people will say, oh well, you know, them doing the Red Dead remaster or them doing The Last of Us Part 2 remaster takes away resources from GTA 6. We've seen, I think it was VGC, they reported and said that only a minor team is working on this, a bunch of new upstarts, before they get development experience on the next game. And it's like they're just testing the field with those people before they get onto the actual meat and potatoes of a main development game. And I assure you, I am positive that it's not just Naughty Dog that puts skeleton crews on remasters. I'm 99% sure that the remaster for Red Dead Redemption, which people said would flop, and it's going to flop, and guess what? Red Dead Redemption Remaster, people were playing that shit, they were, oh, don't buy this. It was just like, oh, wait a minute. Wait, the same people say don't buy this, they're the same one that's buying it, covering for their channel, trying to find any sort of issues whatsoever. Then it turned out to be a great remaster, so people saying that it was going to be a flop remaster, is going to be filled with bugs, it was not going to be good, failed on that prediction anyway. A skeleton crew worked on that, therefore no development time, none whatsoever, no R&D was taken away from GTA 6. I mean, if it did, if that was true, they wouldn't be releasing any sort of development update, which is going to be that trailer coming out in early December. And I'm just saying, like, oh, people say, oh, people support dumb practices. It's not like things can't fail. Everything is a subscription service. People are dumb. Look, games as a service is failing right now. Everyone can't do it. Even PlayStation can't do it, which is the crux of my response. I'm like, Sony cut down fucking 12 games as a service games because they know they have to get those 6 right, and if they don't, then they're going to consider this whole project as a failure in the next 3 years. So they have to get it right, they have to get it tight, etc. It doesn't matter how many people are currently buying into Fortnite. Fortnite's popular. There's going to be popular things. You're going to have to deal with it. There's going to be practices that are popular, and you're going to have to deal with it. There's going to be popular remakes. There's going to be popular games as a service. There's going to be popular live service games like Siege, all that shit. You're going to have to deal with it. There is games that will go in that direction that will be successful, and it is what it is. Lightning in a bottle, maybe, surely, but it happens. People will do what they want with their money, and if people want to enjoy themselves, that's fine. But success or failure is a case-by-case basis in gaming, in anything really. And we've seen so many live service games flop in the past 5 years. Like, it's been unbelievable how many has failed so far. So it's a lot of people just drawing comparisons and drawing semantics in the comment section, and it's again, you know, sometimes free can be bad too. It's like, why isn't the remaster free? Why do we have to pay $10? I'm like, motherfucker, of course. I don't think that gaming is going to be always a charity. I think that there's going to be some upgrade paths you pay for, and $10 to me is not bad, really. It's not a bad thing at all. And there's some free content that's not good. There's some free content where I felt my time was wasted, like Ghost Survivors. That was a terrible update for Resident Evil 2, and I did not like it. Free doesn't always mean good in every instance, and I might end up hating the fuck out of those new Gears of War 5 modes, even if they're free. You never know. Same for this update. If it's good, it's good. If no return is imbalanced, I'm going to say so and let my community know when I actually play No Return for Last of Us when it comes out in January. But I will be getting it, I will be supporting it, and it is what it is. Like, there's so many people who either like or dislike modern gaming, and there's always going to be practices, DLC, stuff like that, but I'm not going to say all of it is terrible. There's actually good content that they offer for a later amount. There's good DLC like Lost in Nightmares for Resident Evil 5. That was fucking stunning, and I would pay for that again if I had the opportunity. Hell, I mean, they remastered RE5 several times, so I probably already paid for it, but it was a game I liked. It was a game I wanted to play at 60 FPS. Therefore, I rebought the game. It's a decision as simple as that. Now, anyone is free to say what they feel in the comments, but I don't think this is refutable logic when it comes to remasters needing to be done in an allotted amount of time. Like, you can make a remaster in 3 years or less, as we've seen, depending on the encroaching console generation, and you can make a remake in less than 10-13 years. Like, it could be on the cusp, it could be 9. Some people will say, I even think 9 years is enough to basically say a console generation is done, let's change this entire game to be better than what it is. That can happen, that will happen, that has happened. And if you believe otherwise, if you believe that these remasters or remakes are conforming or should conform to the unwritten rules of 10 years or fucking 3 years, then you are quite simply a delusional person. That's the only thing I can tell you, like, respectfully, because history has proven it. I'm not going to fall to revisionist history. It does not float in this boat. All right. So that's my follow-up to these whole shenanigans that's been happening for the past few days. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this discussion, debate, whatever you may call it. If you want to jump in the comment section, that's fine, but I'm going to jump in the comment section, and it's going to be a good time. So I will see you guys next time. Remasters, they have a market, they have a place, and I just want to play my favorite games at better frame rates, better performance, and experience what is going on with new content if applicable. I'll see you guys next time. Later.